Have you ever walked away from a conversation thinking, "Why did I say yes to that? I didn't want to." So many of us confuse being nice with being good. But what if I told you that niceness is often just fear in disguise? From a young age, we learn that being nice earns approval. We get praised for being quiet, agreeable, polite, even when something inside us is screaming. And slowly, we build a mask. Carl Jung called it the persona, the version of ourselves we craft to be accepted by the world. The smiling, nodding, ever-helpful self that hides how we actually feel. But here's the catch. When you live through that mask long enough, you start to forget who's underneath. Niceness is often rooted in a need to be liked, to avoid conflict, to not rock the boat. Kindness, on the other hand, doesn't come from fear. It comes from presence, from a grounded sense of connection to yourself and to others. Here's a question worth sitting with. When I say yes to someone, am I abandoning myself in the process? Because if your kindness costs you your integrity, it's not kindness. It's performance. This chapter isn't about judging yourself. It's about pausing and becoming aware of the difference. So let's ask, who am I when I'm not trying to be liked? And what happens when I stop being nice and start being real? On the surface, people-pleasing seems harmless, even noble. You help. You support. You keep the peace. But beneath that polished exterior, something quieter begins to erode. Every time you say yes when your body says no. Every time you swallow your truth to keep someone else comfortable. You're not just avoiding conflict, you're betraying a piece of yourself. Over time, this leads to a kind of soul exhaustion. You may look calm on the outside, but inside, resentment starts to whisper. You might notice it as tension in your chest, irritability, or that strange feeling of being surrounded, yet unseen. Here's the paradox. The more you abandon yourself to be accepted, the more invisible you become, even to yourself. Psychologically, this is tied to the fear of rejection. It often stems from childhood patterns, where approval meant safety. But as adults, continuing to earn love by shrinking ourselves becomes a cage. You might even begin to lose your sense of identity. What do I really want? Is this my choice, or just my habit? Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And yet, you can't do that while constantly editing yourself to meet others' expectations. So ask yourself, where in my life am I saying yes out of fear, not alignment? What part of me is tired of being agreeable? True kindness doesn't bloom from sacrifice. It grows from clarity, from honoring your boundaries and still choosing love. Kindness isn't loud. It doesn't demand applause. It simply is, like sunlight spilling through a window, unnoticed, but warming everything it touches. I want to take you back to a simple moment. A McDonald's worker on a regular day. No cameras, no grand gestures. Just warmth in her voice, a playful spark in her eyes, and a moment of genuine affection when she handed over a meal. It was such a small thing, and yet it stayed with me. Why? Because that wasn't nice. That was kind. She wasn't trying to impress, to be liked, or to avoid criticism. She was present, and in that presence, kindness flowed effortlessly. There's a huge difference between performing niceness and embodying kindness. Niceness is often transactional. If I act this way, I'll get approval. Kindness is relational. I see you, and I'm here, without expecting anything in return. One seeks control. The other offers connection. And the truth is, some of the kindest things you'll ever do will be invisible. No one will thank you. No one will know. But you'll feel it in your body, in your breath, in the way the moment softens. So here's a reflection. When was the last time you were kind without needing to be seen? What would it feel like to offer your presence simply because it's who you are? This isn't about adding more goodness to your to-do list. It's about subtracting everything that keeps your natural kindness from shining through. You can't pour from an empty cup. But here's the thing most people miss. You also can't pour truthfully if the cup was filled with who you're pretending to be. Real kindness doesn't come from obligation. It comes from alignment, from being rooted in who you are, not who you think you should be. Carl Jung called this the path of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all the parts of yourself, the light, the dark, the fragile, the wild. Only when we stop outsourcing our worth can we show up in the world with genuine care. When you're disconnected from your inner self, kindness becomes robotic, a checkbox. But when you're connected, even your silence can feel warm. Your presence speaks louder than words. Pause for a moment and ask, what does it feel like when I'm fully with myself, without pretending, pleasing, or performing? That's the ground where true kindness grows. Because when you stop fighting who you are, you stop needing to fix, judge, or control others too. This is where compassion begins, not as a moral duty, but as a natural extension of self-awareness. So the work isn't to try harder to be kind. The work is to return to yourself, to listen, to soften, to meet the parts of you you've ignored and love them into wholeness. Because the more connected you are inside, the more naturally your kindness flows out, honest, calm, and powerful. Let's be honest. You've had thoughts you'd never say out loud. Impulses that scared you. Moments where your niceness slipped and something raw came out. That's your shadow speaking. Carl Jung described the shadow as the hidden side of the psyche, the parts we repress because they don't fit the image we want to present to the world. The anger, the jealousy, the judgment, even paradoxically, our untapped power and tenderness. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If we're afraid of our own darkness, our kindness becomes a shield, a way to prove, I'm one of the good ones. But real kindness? It requires that we drop the act and face what we've been running from. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, Jung wrote, but by making the darkness conscious. When we deny the shadow, we project it onto others. We become reactive, moralistic, fragile. But when we integrate it, when we meet our inner mess with curiosity and compassion, something radical happens. We become whole. And in that wholeness, kindness matures. No longer a performance, it becomes a grounded strength. You can set boundaries without guilt. You can say no and still be love. You can witness another's suffering without needing to rescue or fix. Ask yourself, what part of me have I labeled bad, and how might that part actually hold wisdom? The path to authentic kindness isn't about being flawless. It's about embracing your paradox, the light and the dark. And from that integration, something deeper than niceness is born. Kindness isn't a switch you flip, it's a muscle you build. Not by forcing yourself to be good, but by learning to stay present, even when it's uncomfortable. Here are 3 practices that help you cultivate real kindness, the kind that begins within and radiates outward naturally. Be honest, no practice every time you say yes when you mean no. You're choosing someone else's comfort over your truth. Try this. Pause before answering requests. Ask, is this a full body yes? If not, practice saying no with empathy. No, I can't, but I really appreciate you thinking of me. It might feel awkward at first, but notice how free your body feels afterward. Emotional check-ins. Set a 2-minute timer daily. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What part of me needs kindness today? Let whatever arises be okay. No fixing, just witnessing. This rewires your nervous system to feel seen, and that inner safety becomes the foundation for genuine connection. The silent gift. Choose one moment in your day to offer presence to someone without saying a word. A smile, a pause before reacting, a moment of genuine attention. No expectation, no performance, just a quiet offering of your humanity. Remember, you don't have to do more to be kind. You just have to remove what blocks your natural kindness, fear, masks, self-abandonment. Ask yourself, what if my presence is already enough? What if kindness isn't something I give, but something I am, when I'm aligned with my truth? You may never know the full impact of your presence. A soft word, an honest boundary, a moment of eye contact that says, I see you. That's the beauty of conscious kindness. It's quiet, but it echoes. It moves through people long after the moment has passed. Like a pebble dropped in still water, the ripples reach far beyond what the eye can see. And unlike niceness, which often seeks validation, conscious kindness asks for nothing in return. It doesn't need to be seen because it knows its own worth. The McDonald's worker from earlier? She'll likely never know how deeply her energy touched a stranger. But that's the point. Kindness leaves fingerprints on the soul, not for recognition, but because it's simply how love moves through the world when we get out of the way. You don't need to start a movement. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up, fully present, fully you in this moment. So ask yourself now, who might need a moment of real presence from me today? Have I paused long enough to offer that same presence to myself? Because here's the truth. When you stop being nice and start being real, your kindness becomes medicine. Not just for others, but for you too. This is the quiet revolution. And it begins with you.